Space is not an easy thing to bring to the screen. Alfonso Cuarón spent 4.5 years working on Gravidade, his 3D Lost in Space epic, waiting for the technology to catch up with his vision.
Explorer's been hit.
Now the movie has 10 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director for Mr. Cuarón. We spoke with him and his son Jonás in New York about working on the screenplay together and bringing the story to life.
This movie didn't start out as a space story.
You know, we knew we wanted to isolate a character. So, I mean, I guess we talked about scenarios and contexts where you could isolate a character, but just space seemed to be the perfect scenario. It was a very fun, thrilling scenario. It was one that metaphorically allowed us to speak about various things. You know, it's like she's literally away from Earth, away from any other connection, which was one of the main themes we wanted to explore. So, you know, it didn't start as a space movie, but very quickly into our initial conversation, we arrived to space.
And it was one image. It was the simple image of one astronaut spinning into the void.
Houston, I lost visual, Dr. Stone.
Talking to him is always talking about big philosophical stuff, so I guess our collaboration was like, you know, bringing those thematics into that like ride.
Yes, but with a lot of him saying, yes, but that's boring.
Was it hard, though, to peel back the layers, to peel back the story? The movie is only 90 minutes. It's really tight.
We did have to work really hard to make it a page-turner, like make it something that, like, as you're reading the prose, you really are, in a way, grabbing to the edge of your seat.
I think that the important thing was how to convey the thematic elements, as he said, with as little rhetoric as possible.
You know, the role was like, look, that 3-page monologue, let's write it in half a page.
Did you ever consider showing anything on Earth, or pulling back and showing the NASA reaction?
No.
We didn't consider it.
Yeah, no.
I had to do that. We did an early screen test, and with previous. You know, it was with just rough animations and bits and pieces of faces of Sandra and George, with weird equipment and stuff, and it was a disaster.
Cut. We need another. Can you do another one? Let's do that.
Then you start having all this feedback from audiences wanting, I wish there was an alien or a monster.
Flashbacks to her daughter.
To her daughter, yeah. This whole thing, a love story between Mission Control and Sandra. I was very lucky with the studio. They understood what the whole thing was, and I guess that is because they understood the screenplay. The only thing was, well, we hope that all these stick figures actually they start looking like real astronauts.
What kind of cinematic education did you have growing up with your dad?
Instead of telling me bedtime stories, he would practice his pitches to me. So, like, I guess.
Really? Is that true?
Apparently not.
Apparently that's the case.
I enjoyed it, though. I don't say it with any complaint. He has fun stories.
You were a teenager and getting the Children of Men pitch?
Yeah.
Tu mamá también. Yeah, that he enjoyed.
That one I enjoyed. Yeah, that one I enjoyed.
But then when he told me he was going to do film, then I was truly disappointed.
Well, I'd promised him I'd do something more useful with my life, so.
And I'm trying to collaborate with him again, but he's too important for me.
No. He has to talk to my agents.
Yeah, something like that, actually.
This movie is getting a lot of Oscar talk. What would that mean for you guys to have this movie that you worked on together get that kind of attention?
The last feedback we had was that preview we talked about. That was not,
not so good.
So we didn't know how it was going to be the outcome in terms of audiences and stuff. And this film as well was a kind of unlikely thing to sell. You know,
one character
stranded floating in space. So it's just been like a very sweet journey. And now there's all these talks, and that's really great.